Hey, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Today, I've got Dan DeWard, formerly of Studio D2D and now from, I'm going to let you introduce yourself here. You can look into this camera, talk to me, whatever you're comfortable with.
Awesome. Well, yeah, we obviously we're with Studio D2D. We helped found and design and launch that. The venues, we had 3 wedding venues, and now we are launching Full Circle Weddings and also a wedding podcast, weddingexperts.com.
That's awesome. I always like to start these when I'm talking to somebody like in like my age range. What was your first experience with the internet? Because you and I are old enough to remember life before the internet, and I've kind of talked to every podcast guest about that. So Dan, what was your first experience with the internet?
You know, it was obviously after high school. We didn't have that in high school, so it was probably in the '90s. You know, when I experienced when I think of that, I think of the first thing I think of is AOL. You know, when you log in to the internet and it took forever, and you heard all the screeching sounds until you actually got logged in.
Yeah.
And then having email and being able to surf things. I mean, that's kind of my first memory, which would have been in the probably mid-ish '90s.
Okay. I graduated high school in '97.
I'm older than you, man.
So they had a program my senior year, and I pretty much would just sneak into the computer lab and use it to get download guitar tabs. I'd print them off and take them home and play. It was better than buying the tablature books, and so that was kind of like my first experience, other than some other shenanigans we won't get into here. But yeah, it's technology. We're in like a technological revolution right now, and anybody that remembers how the internet kind of like gradually evolved has a kind of a perspective that like younger people don't have, because younger people, the internet's always been a thing. It's always been a part of our lives. You know, you jump online, your phone connects to the internet, you can do anything you want with it. And we didn't have that. So I always like to ask people that kind of off the bat as an icebreaker.
Right. Yeah. It's a fun thing to think about, actually.
Yeah. So the audience is primarily going to be younger people who are kind of looking at different career paths, and as college gets more and more expensive and less effective as a job landing tool, quite frankly, at least in my opinion, I like to talk to people that have a little bit of an unconventional career path from like where they started to where they got now. You've been in a variety of different businesses, and some you still are. You had a successful exit from Studio D2D, which we'll talk about. It's always interesting because that's kind of like every entrepreneur's ultimate goal, right? Is to get that pile of cash at the end of the rainbow. And so, how did you get into real estate? How did you get into wedding planning? And talk to me about your early entrepreneurial days.
Yeah. You know, my mom was a single mom. It was my brother. My older brother and I were the 3 of us. And so going through high school, we didn't really talk about college too much. I just kind of knew that wasn't most likely going to be my game plan. My mom never really discussed it. So I just knew I had kind of an entrepreneur spirit, a lot of tenacity, was always figuring out ways to make things happen or get things done that I needed to get done, even in the high school days. You know, I need this or I need that. How can I make it happen? So when I graduated, I kind of knew, okay, I'm gonna go into college. I'm gonna venture off and figure out what I can do. I had some family in real estate, but I was still too young for that. I thought I wanted to try some other things. And I mean, I was working at a golf course when I was young, at 14, 15 years old, shagging balls at the driving range or whatever needed to be done. I was working at the skating rink, Woodland skating rink, for many years. My older brother got in there first, and then I followed his lead there. And I mean, I was a floor guard, skate room, whatever. And that led into DJing at the skating rink. And my brother was doing that, and people were asking us then, hey, can you guys DJ our party? And then the parties turned into weddings. And so my brother and I were going around and we were DJing together, and we're talking back on the 45s and 33s and tapes and all that kind of stuff, DJing with that. So we were doing that for quite some time, having a lot of fun with it. And then my brother went into the corporate world. I mean, he was kind of wired for that. He's really good in the corporate world, and it's just not for me. So I thought, I'm like having fun with this. This is great. I love being part of the parties, and I'm making kind of okay money. Yeah. So I kept doing it, and I kept growing it. And over time, other DJs wanted to be part of it, and we grew the DJ company to a fairly decent size. And then I also got my license in real estate in '94. Okay. So about 5-6 years after I got out of high school is when I got my license in real estate. And I was doing both, but the wedding business was growing so well and doing so well, I didn't focus all my energies in real estate. It was mainly referral or our personal use. And then I met my wife, Andrea, we've been married 30 years now
Wow,
plus.
congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. And it's we met and when we met, she's a floral designer. And so it was kind of a nice fit, in the wedding world. And then fast forward a year or so and we had our first child and then, another. And so now there's kids involved, but I'm out DJing and I'm getting home late 2, 3 by the time all the DJs are back 2, 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, maybe I can do something different, but I want to stay in the wedding world. I like it. It's fun. We kept the DJ company going with all the DJs that we had. And I started getting into video because I got out earlier, 9, 10 o'clock at night at the weddings instead of midnight or 1. And so I started doing video in the mid 90s-ish or late 90s. And then that led into still photography for me. And I shot still photography. And as we were moving along and instead of stopping or getting rid of the DJ business, we just kept adding on lines of business, DJ, video, photo, floral. And it just kept evolving over the years until, in about 2013, we're like, we should open a venue now. I think we're good to open a venue. And we started the search and then the build out and design of our first venue, which was the Loft venue and called Studio D2D. So
that's an awesome story. What I kind of hear you saying is that you've always been a hustler.
Yeah, always been a hustler. I truly have. And I do agree. College wasn't for me. Number one, not even the financial side of it. My mom maybe not being able to afford it. I was not going to go obviously out there and get some student loans. I just wasn't going to do it. And I'm all about offense and defense, I call it in business. You can have great offense, meaning you can bring in a ton of money. But if your defense isn't good and you're just throwing it out there, it's worthless. So you got to have good offense and defense. And yeah, I wasn't making much money back then, but I had good defense. I was like, going to keep my money.
Yeah.
Didn't make all the right decisions through my career, but a lot of good ones and learn from the ones that were not so good.
We made enough good decisions to offset the bad decisions because you got to take risks.
You do. And I call it calculated risk. Now, when I was younger, I took risks like crazy. My brother described it as perfect. He's like, I'm the guy that's going to put my toe in the water and check out the temperatures. And he was that way. Mm-hmm. He called me, I'm the guy that's going to run down the dock, jump in, pop out, and tell you how it feels.
Hopefully there's no rocks a foot below the surface.
Exactly. But what I learned over time in business is, I'm a risk taker. I've always kind of been that way. But now I'm a calculated risk taker. Mm-hmm. I really process the risk that I'm going to take, to make sure I understand all the potential outcomes, including the exit strategy.
And the worst case scenario. Most of the time, the worst case scenario really isn't that bad. And if you do it right, you lose some time and you lose some money, but you also gain something. You gain the knowledge of what doesn't work.
Oh, totally.
And sometimes the only way to figure that out is to try it.
Yeah. And those lessons come from sometimes banging your head so hard. The best lessons can come from that. But pull your bootstraps up and get back at it. Don't let it hold you down.
100%. And I think I was thinking yesterday, as I was on my walks yesterday when I was on the 22 for 92 walks, and I was thinking about why do people fail? And I was going to ask you, why do you think businesses fail in your estimation?
Ooh, I think there's a lot of reasons. Just obviously bad financial moves and not taking that calculation part into the mix when you're creating a risk or going to take on a risk. When I structure a business, and I can't speak for everybody, but I think what I figured out along the way as I got older and maybe wiser in business is how to structure my businesses. When I structure them, whether it's real estate or the wedding businesses, or what have you, I have kind of a 5P process, the 5 Ps. The first one is people. Mm-hmm. People are number one. It's the staff we're working with, the staff we're hiring, we call it our team, and then the people we're working for, our people. You got to make sure everybody's good. The second one is product, or your service, but we call it product. So what are you kicking out? Is it a good service you're providing, good ethical service or product? The third one is process. You got to have a tight process in place. It's got to be good. The fourth one is productivity. You can have a great process, but if your staff and you yourself, if you're not following the process, that the productivity is not there, the process is worthless. And then if you have all 4 of those, the top 4 intact, profit will follow.
100%. That's awesome. I'm going to steal that.
Feel free. It's open game to anybody. I hope you can take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to have to write that one down, Ange. Yeah, that's awesome. And our world is the same way in the world of digital marketing and SEO. You got to have the team and you got to have the buy-in from your customer because it's a collaborative relationship, which dealing with in the wedding world, I'm sure you can relate to that. You probably deal with a a few bridezillas throughout your career, and any fun
Or momzillas.
Oh, momzillas are even worse, aren't they?
They could be. They're just as bad sometimes. Not always, but once in a while.
Now you got to tell the audience at least one fun story.
Oh my goodness, we've got a lot of them. Well, I mean, there have been times. It's nice when you get to the point in business when you can sit across the table. Let's take the wedding world for example. I think Andrew and I love the wedding business so much and the real estate business because they're high emotion things. Obviously a wedding, you got one opportunity to get it right. You got to be good at what you do and deliver hopefully over deliver what they're expecting. And same with the home purchase. That's a high emotion. That's a big ticket item. So you got to serve your customers well and be honest and ethical with them. So it was really one that sticks out to me is sitting at the table with the bride who was wonderful and the bride's mom who was maybe not so wonderful, And on our side of it, from the vendor side, we have to calculate, okay, are we a good fit? It's not just we want your money, but are we a good fit? Because we're going to be working together for the next year plus on everything in the planning and the venues and just all that in the day of the wedding. And so the bride was wonderful. The mom was not so, it didn't seem like she really even wanted to be there or cared or was kind of beating down our service or business. And I literally I remember him talking and I tuned him out. And I'm like, is this something that we want to deal with? Cold pricklies, I call it, or the warm fuzzies we weren't getting. Yeah. So I decided, you know what? I said, thank you for coming in. I appreciate your time. I don't think we're the best fit. And I think you'd be better off maybe finding another vendor. And I just remember seeing the reaction. The bride was shocked, but the mom's reaction was like, well, what do you mean you're not going to take our money? And I'm like, you don't understand. It's not all about the money. We do what we love and we let the money follow. And so when we did that, it kind of lets you know you're in the driver's seat when you can help control that and you're not just trying to collect everybody's money.
Yeah, the money's not worth it.
No.
We've had plenty of engagements like that, and luckily we have enough stable client relationships where if something's not a good fit, we know right away that it's just simply this isn't going to work out. And usually I have a whole list of people that I don't like very much that I can refer them to. So,
yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, call this guy. Yeah, he's desperate for money.
And I don't want to put my staff in that. I mean, I've had one bride's mom, a different one. This is a different one, but she was so rude to our staff. I mean, made some of our staff crying at the end of the night because how they were treated and stuff. I'm not interested in that for myself or for our staff. So
no, nobody wins in that scenario.
No, and the win that you added, I remember that.
I do remember that. Yeah, God, that was so long ago.
Exactly, but it's such a good thing. Everybody's got to win.
Yeah, and what that all speaks to is a mindset of abundance. When you've got an abundance of opportunity and you've got a good staff and a good service and a good reputation, yeah, they might go off and leave bad reviews and bitch to anybody who will listen, but who cares? It's if they don't love you, they don't matter. And if enough people love you, the handful that don't, they're just going to go off into the distance and you're never going to see or hear from them again.
Yeah.
And they're going to continue to be miserable people. And we're going to continue to thrive.
Yeah.
And
we didn't spend a lot of money on marketing. I mean, some people throw all their money into marketing and all the different things, whether it's Zillow and real estate or wedding wire or not, whatever in the wedding world. Our focus was, you know what, let's take that money we would spend and take care of our staff to provide a good service to our clients. So our clients come in going, wow. And then they leave becoming our megaphone. That was our marketing machine, taking care of our clients to let them tell everybody about the great experience they had.
And that works when it works. I know I've tried to convince you a time or two to spend some money on marketing.
Well, you do some different stuff, SEO and website stuff.
100%. And yeah, it's I always encourage people to stick with what works. Mm-hmm. When people come to us and they're already successful in one venture or another, they're almost kind of succeeding in spite of their web presence instead of because of it. And so those are the types of clients that we typically take on. But if somebody's already doing well and they've already got a well-oiled machine and they're scheduling a year out, they don't really need us. And
right.
so I'm always happy to encounter people that it's a good problem to have for sure.
Yeah.
And they have my number. They can use it anytime they want to.
The difference between, I think, some businesses though that need that SEO that you provide and web presence and everything, because they're getting one or two clients at a time, but potential clients, maybe hits or whatever. Mm-hmm. In our world, especially the venues, because we had 3 wedding venues and each of our venues had a 300 person capacity. So we were doing a lot of weddings.
Yeah.
We had on average, our average size wedding was 180 to 200. That was kind of the average size. So if you have 3 going a night, that's 600 people you're in front of. And if you're doing a great job in all 3 of those, that's a lot of people to become your megaphone. That's the advantage that we had in the venue world. The hardest part's getting the momentum going. Once it's going, you just got to keep feeding it.
Getting started is always the hardest part in any business. I ask you what you think people fail. My answer to that is I think they give up too soon. I think that's the number one reason businesses fail. Kevin O'Leary is right, though. Some businesses must be taken behind the barn and shot.
Right.
So,
yeah.
If it's a bad idea, or if it's not making money, and if you've put everything into it and you're still not successful despite your best efforts, then yeah, you should probably look for something else to do. But definitely take the opportunity to learn from it. Do you have any failures that you can care to share?
Oh my gosh, we've got a number of them. You kidding me? We've hit rock bottom in business before, and it's tough. And I remember, you got to rebound. You could take some time to get over it, number one, because it feels like a loss. And then you got to, again, like you just said, you got to have tenacity. You got to pull your bootstraps up, and you got to move forward and take what happened and what you learned from that and don't do it again. Most of the time, people walk down the same street and fall in the same hole, and it's a rinse and repeat. But if you take that experience, at least that we did, we took the experiences we've learned from things that didn't work and didn't do them the next time. And instead of the right turn, we took the left turn, and that's how we grew even better and stronger.
And that takes you even further. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the pandemic was really hard on a lot of businesses, including the wedding industry, which you were fortunate enough to exit right before that happened.
Yeah.
We took quite a big hit during the pandemic. About half of our client roster pushed the pause button on their marketing retainers because they didn't even know how they're going to stay in business. Paying for their website work is kind of the last thing on their mind. They need
maybe no customers coming in. Yeah,
exactly. They might not even be able to unlock the doors.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of them couldn't. So, we're very fortunate to have survived and be back in growth mode after a few lean years. So,
good.
I totally relate to that.
And every business was different. Every business was hit differently during COVID. The wedding industry, like you mentioned, maybe we'll talk about it, but how we exited the whole process with Studio D2D and the venues. But our timing was incredible. But that wedding industry got hit so drastic, I think almost harder than most, because they were shut down totally. They have 10 people maybe in a 300-person space venue. Nobody's going to book that.
Right.
So for 17 months, they're sitting vacant, but you still had to pay your overhead. And with a venue, you have big overhead because it's big space. You don't have a lot of staff, and the PPP money applied to how many employees you had, not how much space you had. And then when they came out with venue money, to help venues out, it was only related to the amount of ticket sales. Well, wedding venues don't sell tickets.
Right.
So they got hit. That industry got hit hard, and it's nice to see a lot of our friends that are still in the industry that were able to survive that and get through it. It wasn't that way for everybody.
We have a client that's in a parallel industry. They're in the travel industry, and there are a lot of parallels between the wedding and travel, in the sense that everything shut down during the pandemic, but there was a whole bunch of pent-up demand. And so if you could survive long enough to where you can get back on your feet and all of that demand comes back, now there's going to be an overflow, and you're potentially going to make it up in the long run. And that's what they were able to do. And they were able to return to profitability after only a couple of years.
Oh, nice.
So I assume the wedding industry is similar.
Similar. It did come back strong. Not instantly, but it came back strong. But during COVID, really launched what's called micro weddings. That's now a very popular thing, is micro weddings, more smaller, intimate weddings. And also you've seen a lot of, because when COVID hit and everything went kind of virtual, businesses realized, hey, we can maybe shave down some of our commercial space not needed and let people work from home and do some stuff, which opened up the commercial industry, which is different than the residential. Residential has been so hot for a while in the marketplace, residential homes. Commercial almost somewhat took a different direction, because now there's more spaces available, and some of those spaces turned into more venues, which turned into more competition and a lot more barn weddings and outdoor events. So it did come back, but I think with more competition now. And so in micro weddings, some are like, I kind of like this intimate setting type thing with 50 people instead of 200.
Yeah, there's a lot of industries that were kind of the same for a really long time, and they were kind of ripe for disruption. The funeral industry comes to mind. A lot of people are opting for like less traditional funeral arrangements, not just cremations versus burial, but like celebration of life parties and stuff
Mm.
like that. And they do them a month after. They have like a private small ceremony, and then a month or so later, they'll do something that's more of like a party.
Which
So
I kind of like that.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and there's other stuff like composting. Like you can turn your corpse into dirt, and somebody can go plant a tree or whatever it happens to be. So
Yeah.
it's I can see the wedding industry definitely going in a direction like that, like you just described, with smaller more intimate gatherings, and then maybe like a second ceremony down the road type thing.
Yeah,
So
I just met with my niece actually. This was yesterday. She wants her wedding. They got engaged and they want their wedding on our property.
oh,
And so we were, hey, yeah, absolutely, let's have a fun little wedding, but it's going to be smaller, intimate ceremony, a little bigger reception, 100 people. So yeah, you're seeing more of that, which is kind of nice.
yeah, well, prices have skyrocketed too. I think that has a lot to do with it. So
Yeah.
anywhere somebody can save a buck, I think that they're going to take advantage of that.
Yeah, we always said in the wedding industry, we're recession proof. We're so fortunate because we're in a recession proof business. Even in 2008, 9, 10, when the housing bubble happened and the market crashed and a lot of people lost their homes and jobs and builders struggle for everybody, the wedding industry was still strong. The difference was people were more specific on where they're spending their money. What am I getting for my money? They're asking more questions and taking the time to research, which they should be doing on the front end versus just, I'll book it. No, you got to meet with your people and fully understand what you're paying for. That's what it was like in 8, 9, and 10. And then as the market came back and the economy came back, everything started to loosen back up and people are booking things much quicker again.
Yeah, which kind of segues into how D2D grew to what it ended up being, and you ultimately had a successful exit from that. But in my experience, like you've got a wedding planner, but everybody else is essentially a subcontractor. The flowers and the venue, that's all kind of comes together through a series of service providers. But you brought it all in house gradually, from the DJ business up to securing multiple venues. How did the exit come to be? How did that come together? And what was that negotiation process like?
A shock for a lot of people, including my wife. So, obviously, like you mentioned, we built those businesses. We were one of the only that we could find, honestly. We researched even around the country, and we had a company come in and analyze our business because they wanted to understand what our business model was like and really interview our brides and things like that. Because like you said, a lot of people will refer, hey, we have a team or whatever, but they're separate companies, that you're kind of referring out to different. It's not all the same team under the same umbrella, and ours was built over the time as one company. So the photo, the video, we owned a gown salon, limousine, tuxes, invitations, flowers. I mean, we literally almost did it all.
You had everything.
Everything except food and bar.
Oh, okay.
We stayed away from that aspect. We decided not to tap into that one and just worked with specific caterers. But all the other lines built over time, all the mobile services built over 25 plus years, more than that actually when you add those younger years of DJing in. But and then we opened the venue and we're like, you know what? Let's do something a little different here. Let's open our first venue and build in services with the venue, the PA systems for the ceremony and reception, because about 65% of our events were both ceremony and reception flow from one end to the other. So the timing for us to do that was perfect because that became more popular than just the church all the time. And then our second venue, the City View venue, we designed and built that one out. And then the third one was downtown Grand Rapids, the Harris Building. So we had those 3 running, and they were running strong, and our P&Ls were strong. Our bookings were strong. I mean, our team was strong. The market was strong. I was looking at all the indicators going, wow, okay, we don't want to grow anymore. We're maxed out. Any more will stress us way too much. I even almost think sometimes we were already a little bit past our sweet spot, we call it, our comfort zone. But we had a great team, thankfully. And so we got to that point, and it was in 2018, actually, the end of 2018. My wheels just started turning. I'm analyzing all this stuff going, maybe it's time to entertain a sell here. And so I talked to my wife and I said, hey, that's what I'm thinking. And she was shocked. She had no idea it was even coming. But then as she digested it a little bit, she's like, I hear what you're saying. It kind of makes sense. So we, towards the end of the year, we sold off our one venue downtown Grand Rapids, and then the two other venues, the Loft and City View venue, along with all the lines of business, which was Studio D2D Inc. We sold that all as one package in September of 2019, and we did it quietly. I mean, we didn't broker it. We reached out to a couple people we knew and we thought might be good and we would potentially trust, because we were really concerned about our team.
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure it wasn't someone just buying the business, not going to be around, because Andrew and I were super hands-on with everybody. We mop floors. We do everything. We loved it, talking to clients, tours. And so we ended up getting 2 offers from the 2 people we talked to, and they were solid offers. And Andrew and I decided to do it and take a little sabbatical, and it was healthy for us, honestly. We traveled a little bit. Then COVID hit, obviously. We didn't know that was coming.
Right.
Hence, that totally changed my mindset on recession-proof business, because it got walloped, But that's how we ended up getting out of the wedding venues for a few years like we did, and now here we are again. So,
do you care to talk numbers?
As far as what?
As what the business sold for? So what you were doing in annual revenue, et cetera, et cetera. You don't have to if you don't want to.
I won't get specifics out, just, but I mean, it's sold for 7 figures. So, which is good, and based on P&Ls and everything, because we built our business cash flowing it. We didn't take debt out from day one. So every time we made money, we roll it back into something else or another reno or whatever. And so at the end of the day, obviously the P&Ls look good, and being an Inc., you own the shares, and it was easy for the buyers. They just bought the shares from us. It made it an easy transaction, because there wasn't a lot of liability out there that they had to worry about.
Well, they bought all of the assets in the business, the buildings and any computers, all that stuff. They bought everything, right?
Yeah. Not the real estate.
Oh, you kept
just
the real estate.
Business. Yeah. So
okay.
the real estate wasn't sold, just the business and all the book of business, the P&Ls, the profit and loss, because you average that out, based on your income, and then you do a multiplier of what are you netting in this year or the last 2 years average net, and then you times it by a multiplier to figure out what that business might be worth, minus stuff.
Do you mind sharing what that multiplier was?
We did a 4-time multiplier.
4x? Okay. 4x post-tax? EBITDA or whatever
we did net.
4x net?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a nice valuation.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We were solid. I mean, we broke it. I mean, when we were running our business, our philosophy was, I want to be a third or maybe 25% in 25s. I want to be in thirds or 25s, meaning I want a third of my money that we're profiting going to our overhead. I want a third of our money going to staffing and other things. And I want a third of our money to be profit. So we can have that to roll into other stuff to continue to grow. And that's what we stuck to.
So you're running 33% net margins, what you're saying?
Which is solid.
That sounds high for that industry.
Oh, but we were running it so tight. But we had some things that, we were building, photo booths and different things that we put our money into, which we didn't owe again. I mean, we had to get our money back, obviously, but we didn't owe on it. There's some of those that really generated good profit for us to get to the next level. That's why I say 25 to a third. Like sometimes it was only 25%, in quarters, because it depends on the year and what was going on and everything. Those are just snapshot numbers.
Yeah. Well, even 25% is significant.
Yes.
You think about a business like that, you expect it to be in like the 10 to 15% range.
I agree. When we did our insurance evaluations and everything, they're like, there's no way. And I'm like, you can look at my books. Let's look at the books. Let's go. And our CPA, and it was legit. So then they'd say, good job.
I totally identify with keeping costs down, because you can pass those cost savings along to your clients. And we do, and I'm sure you do too, with your customers and clients. And so, they get better value for the same money. And so it all speaks to the value of relationships.
Exactly. Yep. And we would pass it along. We tried to keep our packages streamlined and simple. We didn't want those little add-on things for our wedding clients and everything, where also they're nickeled and dimed, and by the end of the day, when they have to pay their balance, they didn't realize it's $3,000 more than I thought. We didn't do any of that. It was open-ended. We tried to include as much as possible, but we didn't make them have to use everything. They didn't have to use our photography or have to use our video, or it's only if they liked our team and they clicked well.
Yeah, but they're not going to save any money going with their cousin or whatever it happens to be. Maybe a little bit, but
but they'll probably lose an experience though. the value and the experience that our team has.
And the added stress. You write one check and it's taken care of.
Right.
And I think a lot of people probably really like that.
Yeah. Yep. That was good for us.
So you're getting back into the wedding game now after several years. What's that all about?
It's because we have a passion for it, to be honest with you. We don't need to do it. I mean, we're blessed that way. When we took this little sabbatical from the wedding world when we sold it, and then we were just going to travel for a while, enjoy life a little bit, and we worked so hard. We literally worked. Everybody used to tell us, "Oh, you're so lucky you only work weekends," and I'm like, "Oh, because of weddings, And I'm like, "You have no idea. We're lucky if we get a Sunday off." Because you're cleaning, you're flipping rooms, you're meeting with people, you're planning, you're doing floor plans, you're doing tours, you're updating equipment. It's nonstop, And so taking that sabbatical was nice, and that's when I'm like, you know what, we're gonna expand the real estate brokerage, and have some fun with that. And we bought some properties and did some rentals and some flips and a short-term rental in Florida, and just had fun with that for a while. And then as the time went, we had a non-compete clause, hence the break too, because they didn't want us turning right around after buying our business and being their competition immediately. Which makes sense. I get it. So we had a non-compete, so we had to sit idle for a while, which was kind of healthy for us, I think. And then during that time, though, we realized really how much we love the wedding industry, and we love to help people plan their weddings. There's just a passion there that both Andrea and I love to do. So that's what brought us back into it, and hence the name Full Circle Weddings. Because it all came full circle for us.
Makes sense. Is this new business model going to be any different? Are there going to be any similarities? What sets Full Circle apart from Studio D2D and the other competitors out there in the marketplace? Yeah,
not a lot from our business model. Like I talked about the 5 Ps we use, that structure was implemented and always will be in our business models. The packages that we offer where clients can come into us, Andrea and I are going to be doing a consulting role. Obviously, she's going to do floral, but we'll consult with our clients also, which is a huge advantage. And if they're working with us, we don't always charge extra for that. We just want to help them. And then photo and video. People can book one service or they can do a package. And that's what we had before. It's whatever fits their wedding the best. That model works well. And it's all of our team. We own all the equipment and everything so that, we can control that. We'll see down the road with venues. We have ideas. It wouldn't be the same thing we did in the venue world if we decide to tap back into a venue again. We have other ideas that because times change, right? Your business model doesn't stay the same. What you aspire, our philosophy was we want to be here with our ideas, our own visions of what we want to do, and hopefully it works. And then maybe our competition sees it and they that's a good idea. We're going to chase it. And hopefully by the time they get to where we are, we're at the next level. Yeah. You're never at a point in business where it's like, okay, I'm good, I'm done. It's a living, breathing thing you constantly have to evolve and shift with. That. So
100%.
So that, for us, if we tap into the venue world again, it'd be kind of a different concept that we'd probably run with.
Any thoughts on AI related to your business? Have you looked into any AI type platforms that may be an asset?
No platform specifically that I've looked into. I mean, I know it's being useful for writing vows and doing different things and time management. And there's a lot of aspects in the wedding world that it can be utilized for. We haven't dove into it heavily yet, but we're gonna tap into it pretty soon though. I mean, we go down to Vegas. Andrea and I are going down to Vegas for the wedding convention.
Okay.
And that's in November. We love doing all that extra stuff because you can learn from around the country. You can learn. Everybody does it a little different. And it's so fun to learn. And that's what we want to tap into though, and see what some of the technology, what is out there that maybe we can tap into and add it to our structure.
Yeah, nobody really knows what direction AI is going to affect every business, but it's going to affect every single business in some capacity. Sure. And I think as it becomes more streamlined and targeted to specific industries, I think that's where it's really going to have an impact. And it's going to happen sooner than later. But right now, AI, there's just like 10,000 new companies sprouting up every single week, it seems like.
Oh, yeah.
And it's impossible to keep up with all of it. So
I want to try to keep up, though, so I don't get so far behind the 8 ball. Yeah, now I'm trying to play catch up. So, I mean, you're probably well more advanced than I am in that arena.
Yeah, I'm in that sandbox every single day.
Yeah.
I think, there's AI kind of means different things to different people. You've got like your LLMs, your large language models like ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity and Gemini from Google. And they're all kind of competing for eyeballs. And I think the big winner is going to be ChatGPT because they're backed by Microsoft, who has the most money. Because right now they're in, it's like an arms race, and they're in user acquisition mode. And they don't care about making money, even though there's a subscription cost to them that's probably just to offset their costs. They're trying to win basically it's a war of attrition. And you saw it with like web browsers and search 25 years ago. That's why I asked you in the beginning of this conversation about your first experience with the web. And you probably remember back then there was Alta Vista and Lycos and Bing and Yahoo, and there's 10 or 15 different search engines. And then Google came along and wiped them all out because they had the most money from an investor standpoint. And then they went public, but they didn't even turn a profit until like 2001. And so, but they basically built a better mousetrap and won the user acquisition war. But if you look at it today, Google owns 90% of all search between Google and YouTube. But it's not objectively better than, Bing or DuckDuckGo or the other ones that are still, prominent today. Yeah. It's just they're incredibly dominant. But that number is down from 95% less than a year ago. Because people are migrating to ChatGPT and other LLMs for informational type queries.
Oh, interesting.
Because if you think about it, what Google has always tried to do, they've always tried to create a personalized service between like tracking your location and your search history and the types of websites that you visit. They track all of that, of course, and they're trying to create the most personalized experience as they possibly can. And they did as good a job as they could, when you consider that people are only typing in between 2 and 4 keywords. But you get on ChatGPT and you're having a conversation with it, and it will ask clarifying questions. And the more you use it, the more it gets to know you, the more personalized that experience becomes. And Google is probably going to lose that war. And so ChatGPT has a lot of applications that can be ported over into other industries, and you can just get on its interface, or you can use the API to create new tools. And like the tool that we talked about the last time you were here off camera, I haven't made any progress on that idea, but I think it is a good idea, and I think I will pursue it at some point. But today I'm focused on other things. So
right, I get it. Yeah,
which is always the case. Like there's no shortage of good ideas.
No, not when you're an entrepreneur. You're always seeking them.
Yeah, you're always looking to solve a different problem.
Yes, so I call them pain points. We in our wedding industry, one thing I've done different. I mean, we've surveyed hundreds of brides over the years, but we really focused on it lately, especially with our new venture with Full Circle Weddings, and then the podcast coming out, which we're excited about. We've been interviewing them on specific things because our goal with that has been to figure out what their pain points are, and our avatar or our main person is a bride. And we want to know what are their main pain points, because now we want to fix them. And if we can fix them, we got a strong business.
So do you have written surveys like by email?
Email or in person, like where we can talk and chat with them about stuff.
You want a tip?
Sure.
Copy and paste all of those into one document and then copy that into ChatGPT for analysis. It'll condense it all down to you, and it'll tell you exactly what you need to know.
Which it would save me a lot of time because I've been doing this kind of manually, but it's fast. But there's a repeating trend we've noticed with brides, and it made it pretty easy for us. We kind of thought we knew what it was, but even though it doesn't matter how long you've been in business, I would suggest any business owner continually survey their people, because that can ebb and flow a little bit. And it did a touch, but that's what we've been focused on, is finding out their pain points, and then how can we fix that? So
yeah, that's something that we suggest to all of our clients, is to take your Google reviews and just copy it, just Control A, Control C, and just copy it into ChatGPT for analysis, and that will inform your web copy, because you want to speak to what's important to your audience. And so you can do that. I mean, you can extrapolate that into all sorts of different
I never even
ideas.
thought about that. That's a great idea. That's why you do what you do.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks for saying that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, plug for Mike.
Let's talk about what it's like to work with your spouse for so many years. You mentioned that she was a florist and you were the popular DJ that gets all the chicks. So
I don't know about that, but yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I've seen the way the girls.
She's much prettier than I am.
You and I are in agreement, my friend.
Yeah, exactly. That's fair.
I've got the same problem. So a lot of people can't make that work. They try, they think it sounds like a good idea. Maybe it sounds like a good idea. Most people advise against working with your spouse. How have you been able to make that work?
Well, when we first started, it wasn't as easy, right? I thought when we first got rolling in business with the DJ company, everything, I'm like, I should be, especially when we got married and there were little kids. I'm like, I felt like I got to take care. It's my job. I got to take care of everything. She doesn't have to worry about this stuff or that stuff or whatever. And I thought I could do it, and I wasn't so good at it. I've got my strengths and I got my weaknesses, and it really became effective for us when I realized, you know what? She's better at some things and she's wired better for certain things than I am. And then when we realized what those roles were in business and what we were going to each handle, it made a world of difference. And I tell you what, our business, everything changed when that happened. So I guess from my perspective, being able to loosen up, let go of the control, realize I didn't have to do it all and she can do some things better than I can do. That's when we really became a good team. So, and defining those roles and having those boundaries and me not stepping on her toes or vice versa. I mean, that's crucial too.
That's interesting because I've seen the two of you operate. And you usually do most of the talking in the consultations, and she's like just there in a supporting role. But like in my observation, it works perfectly between the two of you. And I think it just kind of goes down to role delegation. She doesn't want to be the leader, one would assume.
You're absolutely correct. She wants to get it done, be behind the scenes and get it done.
She wants to focus on what she enjoys, what she's good at, and ultimately support you and support the business. Mm-hmm. And so I think when you see that work, it's a beautiful thing. I'm trying to train this one to.
Hey, she's behind the scenes taking care of business.
Yeah. She could totally wreck all of this right now if she wanted to.
Yeah. But you know what? It is so important. What I realized is, you can be the front man, right? You can be talking to people or whatever, or the face of the whatever. But that behind the scenes support and that behind the scenes role and that foundation, if you don't have that, it's going to be tough for your business to succeed. Somebody's got to play that role.
One thing I always tell clients is that I do all the talking, but the team is what makes my words true. And so that often resonates with them because, you're only as good as your team.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate to have had a great team for a very long time. You've met many of them, and I wouldn't be where I'm at without them.
And I think any business person, including myself, would say the same. I'm not strong like I would be with them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you'll agree with one of the things I've kind of come to realize. I've seen some really poor operators, but they have the one skill that you always need to be successful, and that they can sell. They can sell their customers, and they can sell people on working for their business, at least temporarily.
Right, and not oversell. Sometimes, because I think a lot of customers, when you're working with people, whether it's real estate or weddings, if you're trying too hard, I think they sense it. And it almost turns people off. Whether you're walking into a house with a customer, they know if it's good for them. I don't have to, or Andrea, we don't have to overpitch it or try to oversell it to them. Or the venues, for example, when they came in and toured our venues for their wedding, we pretty much knew in the first couple minutes if they were in or they weren't, because they'd walk in and you could see it in their face, like, oh yeah, this is what I envisioned for my wedding, or I don't know if it's the best fit. I want something more. Ours were kind of industrial chic, where maybe they wanted outdoors or they wanted rustic or barn or high-end elegant or something. Sure. You could tell right away but we never tried to oversell them. It just naturally would happen.
You don't have to. Mm-hmm. One thing that I've found is that in my industry, I don't try to convince anybody that they need what we sell. Like if they see the value in it, hey, great, we'll probably work well together. And if not, hey, more power to you. Mm-hmm. I hope you find what you're looking for. Yep. And so, again, it comes down to a mindset of abundance and just the fact that I can't sell them on the necessity of what we do. I can't sell them on the value of what it is and what it could potentially do for their business. Mm-hmm. It's just is what it is. They either see the value or they don't.
Yeah.
So,
Luckily,
most of them do, and then something magical happens. They see it work, and then they tend to stay with us for a very long time. So the entrepreneurial spirit runs in your daughter as well. No, she's running a local salon not far from the old Moxie Men office. Did you ever see
Yeah.
her?
Yep. I was there.
Yeah, on Leonard there.
Yep.
So she's just right up the street from there, right?
Yep. She was on Leonard. She recently moved because she's going to
did
be
you?
into a smaller suite because she's going to look for a new building, maybe something a little bit bigger, space wise, laid out a little different. But she was down there on Leonard for quite some time.
So how did that all come together? And you want to share the name of her business, and Ange can throw it up there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Her business name is Raven Maine.
Okay.
And she's so creative. Erica is such a creative person in everything she does. Not just hair and makeup and everything, which is her industry, but drawing, painting. I mean, she's always been that way. So it doesn't shock Andrea and I that she went into this field and is crushing it. I mean, she's so good at what she does. But she's more of a craft type salon versus, she's not looking to be a big, huge salon or some of the other ones out there. It's more of a craft and an experience. And she really takes care of her clients with the colorings and just the stuff she does. And it was so neat because yesterday, like I mentioned, my niece getting married. So we're sitting down, Andrea and I, and Brianna, my niece, and Ryan, her fiance, and we're talking about timelines. And we're helping them create their timeline for their wedding. And we're building it, and we got to the point earlier in the day when she has to get ready. And, how many bridesmaids, how many moms, whose hair, makeup, all the things you're doing. So we called my daughter and said, hey, we want to chat. We're going to put you on speakerphone and we want to talk about timeline and what would you need and, how many people. And then I just let her go. And listening to her handle that from the salon side, but also the wedding knowledge that she's got, because she shot photography with us for quite some time also. So she has that knowledge too, which is perfect. And the way I was able to listen to her navigate a bride, Brianna, through that process and what she needs and don't forget this. And I'm like, I was a proud dad at that moment. It was really great. So she's doing wonderful with her business and it's fun to see her succeed. And she's very frugal and she's taking care of her clients well and building her base of her clients, one client at a time. That's what I told her. I said, that's not an overnight process. And she understood that and she's doing wonderful. So
that's awesome to hear. And yeah, you must be very proud to see her
for sure
do her own thing and escape the rat race of gainful employment.
Yeah. Now, it hasn't been easy for her. It's a learning curve because my daughter and I have kind of a similar personalities, right? So sometimes we'll clash on things. But I had to realize, she's tough. She can do it. She doesn't need me. If you need me, call me. But you can do this. And the things she's learned through entrepreneurship and owning her own business. Because if people haven't owned their own business before, we're not getting up at 9, coming home at 3 and just it's cake mix. You're hustling, but it's a passion hustle. So it doesn't always feel like you're working, but she's gone through a lot, learned a lot and banged her head a couple times on a few things, but she's learned again from it and she's doing great.
And she will bang her head many times more.
Yep, we all will. Yep, and we'll keep learning. and have the tenacity, like you said, to pull the bootstraps back up and keep going. Yeah.
It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 10 steps back. Mm-hmm. But you just got to keep moving forward and keep doing what works and treating people well and focusing on your process and always improving. Right. I think that's the kind of thing that people. It sounds glamorous running their own business, and people see successful people like yourself, and like you commented earlier, like, oh yeah, you don't work, you only work weekends. That must be awesome. And you have no idea what it was like to work until 3:00 in the morning, writing proposals and everything you had to do to.
Oh yeah, sometimes pulling overnighters because you're prepping gear or equipment, and the next day's busy. You got to get it done. You can't go home. So
yeah, and failure is not an option.
Right, you're the fall guy. You're taking the heat if it's not done. Yep.
Yeah. And so it's already been made known that failure means she'll have to get a job, and that's not happening.
Exactly. So. Yeah. That's great.
So I got to make this work.
Yep.
So lastly, you're starting a podcast as well. Have you actually launched it yet?
Well, we just have the intro to it, of what it's going to be out there. So it's on Podbean and Apple, Spotify and all that. And we'll have it on YouTube and on our website, but it's geared for, it's called Wedding Planning Experts. And it's Andrea and I are going to be the hosts of it, but we're also going to invite experts from all the different lines of business in our field and interview them and go and capture footage of them and include that in, the YouTube videos and everything. Or they can just listen into it on the audio perspective. And we just want to build that. We're going to work in conjunction with the local bridal show, one of the biggest in town, and work in conjunction. So those vendors that are at the bridal show, can potentially have exposure throughout the rest of the year through the podcast. and just try to make it a good resource for brides and grooms when they're out there trying to learn about things to really get more knowledge.
So the primary audience is brides and grooms.
Correct. Yes. Mainly brides, but then grooms too. Because, the old saying, I mean, I love grooms. I was one of them, right? But we were kind of passenger on the bus ride. It's usually the bride that's leading the way. Yeah. But grooms are involved too. And one of the things that we toured a venue the other day, with a client, and we're walking through the venue and there was no groom's room. And it just reminded me, don't forget about the guys. Yeah, it's a big, beautiful bridal suite. And I get it. The ladies are getting ready, hair, makeup. I understand that. But you got to have a place for the guys too. It's important to them also. You can't leave them totally out.
So you can't just be standing in the hallway.
Yeah. I mean, our focus for it, because most brides are the ones that are going to be tuning in. Some grooms will, but there's certain things that a lot of times the guys are like, hey, the bar or the DJs, or I'll take care of that. But the bride dives into it so much, so it's going to be mainly geared towards brides, but also we're going to include the grooms, so they're part of the process.
Very cool. So will you be interviewing any momzillas?
If we get any, it'd be fun. I mean, they probably have good ratings if they'd be willing to come on and take a hit. So,
yeah, we'll have to find you some Karens to interview.
Exactly. Yep.
That's awesome, Dan. Well, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Awesome, man. It's good to be with you.
Yeah, cool.
All right.
Hey, thanks so much for checking out my video. I really appreciate it. Hey, can you do me a favor and take a second and just leave a comment and let me know what you thought of today's episode. And if there's a topic you'd like to see covered on a future video, or if there's a guest that you think I should maybe try to interview, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much. And hey, as a token of my appreciation, enjoy these outtakes from today's episode. It's been a great conversation.
It has been. Actually, I dig it. It's fun. Yeah,
it is. Like I say, I'm trying to interview and just kind of talk with people who have an experience to share, and everybody's a little bit different. I don't know if you saw the one with Mike Tyson. Did you see that one?
No, I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah, he's a local nurse, but he shot a reality TV show with the boxer back in 2011 called Same Name, and aired on CBS. And so he had some fun stories about how that all came together. And he's a little bit younger than the boxer. He's 51. And so, like, as a kid, the boxer would have a fight that Saturday night, and they'd get a whole bunch of prank phone calls at the house.
That's funny.
Yeah, so
I'll have to watch that one.
Yeah, it's a good conversation. And he talks about all sorts of different stuff. He's a great guy. Comes to my poker games every week.